Troy McDonald with Condo Banker here today. Thank you for joining me for my vlog. This week's subject is on condo reserve funding. I also have a blog that I published this week as well. Take a look at that. I'll make sure that there is a link to the vlog or to the blog in the post. But let's get down to the subject today, which is condo reserve funding. Why is that important? So in my blog, I wrote, not only maintain, but to enhance the value of condominiums under the association's care. That's why reserve funding is so important. The reserves are what guarantee that our condos will be maintained to the level that we expect them to. And so we don't have surprise special assessments. So let's get right at it. Let's start talking about some of the different functions of reserve funding, and we'll start off with the basics. There's basically two types of reserve funds are divided into two types, pooled and component. And the difference would be, the component is very simple. A roof is a component. So if you'll have a specific amount of funding for a roof. Paint and weatherproofing, another direct funding source. But if you have a condo that has a large grounds with lawn care and maintenance, and you got golf carts and tractors and lawn equipment, you might pool all of that into one pool of money in order to figure out your reserve funding. That way you're not having 75 line items for weed eaters that cost $200 and tractors that cost $2,000, or lawnmowers. I guess no tractor costs $2,000 nowadays. So determining the correct amount of contributions. So first thing for the reserves, first thing you need to do is you need to really identify what those components are that need to be maintained. Then you need to determine what the present day cost of replacement and the long-term cost with inflation, what it's going to cost 25 years from now or 10 years from now. And that's where your capital asset schedule will come in, and your reserve study. And we're going to talk about both of those in detail a little bit further along in the vlog. But first, let's start with the legal context of what's going on with reserve funding here in the state of Florida. As we all are probably aware, there was a tragedy down in South Florida a couple of years ago where a condominium collapsed. The Florida legislature went into special session and they produced Senate Bill 4D, which was enacted in May of 2022. And that was, this was to this legislation was created to try to make sure that we never have another tragedy like Surfside again. And some of the things they did is they require a structural integrity reserve study must be completed every 10 years. And that structural integrity reserve study is going to look at the different components of the building that are considered structural. So what do they consider structural, and what components must be funded under this new legislation? Roof, load-bearing walls, and other primary structure members, floors, the foundation, fireproofing and fire protection systems, plumbing, electrical systems, waterproofing and exterior painting, windows, and any other item that has a deferred maintenance expense more than $10,000. So there's a lot there, and there's a lot to figure out and calculate out. So how are we going to get those? Well, we're going to get into reserve studies. So what is a reserve study? Reserve study is, it has two primary components, a physical analysis and a financial analysis. So the consultant is going to come out and physically look at your property. They're going to evaluate the different structural systems that you have that need to be maintained, not only the ones pursuant to the law, but there may be other systems that are unique to your building or complex that is important that they be taken into consideration. Then, once they do that, they're going to do a financial analysis. So they're going to identify the components, identify the remaining life, and then identify the current cost and then the cost for inflation at the end of its useful life. So, because a roof now that costs $1 million, or in 22 years from now, is certainly going to cost more than $1 million. Well, they're going to try to figure that out using inflationary formulas, inflation calculators, or in an attempt to do that. So, but you also want to take into consideration the local conditions. If you're in a condo that's on the beach with the salt air, that's going to create additional challenges for your building. It's going to cause corrosion and spalling of the concrete, and anything that's metal will corrode and rust. And then you want to have the longevity and sustainability. And again, all of this is to make sure that your condo is properly maintained and maintains its value. Being underfunded in reserves will hurt the value of the condo. So once you've completed the reserve study, now you have to take and put it into a capital asset schedule. And what is the capital asset schedule? The capital asset schedule is the schedule that lists all of the components and how much money it's going to need and how much money you should have. And this is a living, breathing document. And what you're going to see is I need in 2023 I need, as I'm going to say, $1 million to complete the projects that are coming through in reserves and for future projects. In 2024 it might be 1.2 and then 1.4 million, and all of a sudden you're going to see your actual funds drop because you completed a project. All of a sudden you hit to a point where a roof is done or a fire pump is replaced. So the funds will go down, and then you'll continue to add to it, and it'll show you how much money you should have when you should be replacing, repairing, or upgrading different components of the structure or that your condo is. So it's a complicated document, but it's a really good way to keep track of how things are going and how things are moving. And you can see how and again you can see how where you should be, and you can also see if you're 70% funded or 80% funded or 90% funded. Ideally, you should always be 100% funded for the point on the capital asset schedule where you're at. So what else needs to be taken into consideration on your capital asset schedule? Well, risk management. The importance for being precise in your calculations, and you really need to engage experts. There are professionals out there that do this for a living. You do not want to be guessing at these. Remember, being precise is a key component. And then you want to regularly review and update this document. I think certainly on an annual basis would be best. Maybe every other year, but really every year this document needs to be reviewed, see how you're doing, and make sure that you're on track to meet those needs so that you don't have to do special assessments and you have no surprises and your building is always maintained. So how much money should be in your condo reserves? Well, that's a balance. And the balance is what the ownership wants. In the state of Florida, certain items have to be funded 100%. There are items, cosmetic items, maybe updating the lobby or refreshing the landscaping, that you can maybe have those at a lesser amount. But again, if you're trying to keep your values up, having a schedule to update your lobby every 10 years or 12 years is not a bad thing, and putting money aside to do it is the way to do it. So then nobody's surprised, and then nobody's getting a special assessment because you want to repaint and redecorate because the property is dated. So those are some of the things that you really need to take into consideration as well. So Now let's talk about the best practices. And the best practices are important. What are the best practices for reserve funding? One is maintaining the adequate levels. You need an investment policy. You want to be conservative, yeah, but you also want to try to stay up with inflation as much as you can as you're putting money away. And so that's where an investment advisor can help you to make sure that you get the money in the right type of accounts. Again, nothing risky. You don't want to be throwing it out there on a startup, high-tech startup nobody's ever heard of. But, finding the right CD, money market, long-term interest-bearing accounts may be the appropriate investment vehicle for your reserve funds. You also want to be regularly reviewing your capital asset schedule, completing reserve studies on a regular basis, updating those documents, making sure that you have the information that you need to make good decisions and to follow the law pursuant to the changes that the legislature made in 2022. And I can't say this enough, you're going to need professional involvement. You're going to need help from the professionals. There are people that do this for a living. It's not that expensive in the big picture to have a reserve study done. They can help you put your capital asset schedule together. Your condo managers can work with you on this to develop the budget that does that in the most efficient manner possible, but also at the same time keeping your condo funded properly so you can maintain it. And then I think that where a lot of condominiums get in trouble is transparency and communication. Be transparent with the owners. If you're on a condo board, let the owners know. Be transparent, communicate with them. People are smart, they understand this, and people don't like surprises. And by making sure everybody is involved and that you are doing and you're keeping everybody informed, that will go a long ways, especially if you need to make some adjustments to reach those funding levels to get to the point where you're 100% funded over the next couple of years and then maintain it. So the last thing I want to say is check out my blog. You can find it on my website, which is www.findyour-floridahome.com. If you want to ask me any questions about condos and reserve funding, please email or text me. Also, I'm available to, if you're looking to buy or sell a condo, I'm here for you. And the last thing I want to do is the offer I make in every one of my vlogs. If you are interested in the value of your home and you live here on the Treasure Coast, and even if you're not planning on selling it, you need it for some estate planning or some finance, for some other type of financing, and you're trying to get an idea of the value of your home, call, text, or email me. I'll be happy to do that free of charge, no obligation. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Troy McDonald, Coldwell Banker Realty, 772-260-9458. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you back on my next vlog.